All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Microsoft Teams and a wonderful new product called Reading Fluency. We are so excited to show you this product. It is literally hot off the presses. It's only been out for a couple weeks, and so we are so excited to walk you through reading fluency tonight. My name is Cami Cannikins, and I am from Medicine Hat, Alberta. I'm an instructional coach out here, and I am thrilled to be doing some contract work with Cobblestone, and lots of my job involves reading and literacy, and so I am so excited about reading fluency. Tonight, I am going to be your admin gal behind the Cobblestone Collective name. So in the chat, if you have questions, you just type them in there while Damien's presenting, and I will answer them as best I could, and we will interact with Damien if we need to. So Damien, I'm going to hand it over to you to introduce yourself and get rolling.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And yeah, as Cami mentioned, this is so new. We had to push this workshop back in order to make sure that we had the product installed. So super excited to be showcasing it. And in case you haven't heard or knew what you're really signing up for, we are going to cover reading progress, which is a brand new tool. It's built right into Teams. If you would like the link I have on the screen right now, that will give you the direct presentation deck that I am currently working off of. So it has been made available to you. And with that, you can follow along, try it out at home. I really recommend to kind of work with us and try to play along as we are. And with that being said, this workshop is recorded. So if you don't want to show your camera, go off mute, anything like that, and just be mindful. But if you ever do, feel that you missed something or you wanted to rewatch, then we will be able to provide that for you as well, just for your convenience. Cami kindly introduced herself, and my name is Damien. I am from Mississauga, Ontario, just the bigger neighbor of Toronto, if you will, over on Treaty 13A. And it's similar to Cami, doing a lot of great contract work with Cobblestone. I love educating teachers, students across Canada, and really just being able to help all of you learn a little bit more about what is already available to you, hopefully. So before we go forward, I do want to take a piece of time and acknowledge the lands that we are settled on and from where I'm presenting. So being from the Mississauga of the Credit, territory, I'm very fortunate for those that were before me. And a little fact about the Mississauga of the Credit Nation is that parts, if not most of Mississauga, was actually in a territory labeled as the dish with one spoon. And so what that essentially meant was that it bound individuals to share the territory and protect the land. So the dish represented that land to be shared peacefully, and the spoon was representing the individuals living on that land, with mutual cooperation, with using the resources, right? So they didn't really want to practice violence with that. And I think that's a really powerful statement because we can apply that to many modern day struggles, for example, regarding climate change. So I really like to share that piece. And if you'd like to find out more about the lands that you are on and maybe a little bit more, then definitely take a look at native-land.ca. And you can look at the treaties and the map. It's a very great website that is available for you. So really encourage you to check it all out. A big, humongous thank you to the Cobblestone Collective for supporting us and being able to provide this workshop for all of you. And on the thank you kind of train, thank you to Microsoft Education Canada as well for supporting us to be able to bring this to all of you. So what we're going to be covering today is we'll do a very brief review of Teams. There have been a couple changes if it's if you've been away over the summer or haven't been to monitoring it too much. We're going to highlight again how to create assignments because that will be pivotal to create our reading progress. And that is kind of the bulk of our presentation. And then lastly, we'll even be able to give you a certification, so a code for attending with us today. And you will be able to take that onto the education.microsoft.com and add that to your credentials. So we'll go over that a little bit and make sure that you all are knowledgeable with how to do that. So with that being said, I think we should navigate over to Teams. So what I will do is I'll open up my browser over here. And I'm going to be doing everything in the web version of Teams just because that is the most universal version of Teams out there. You're able to use it on a Windows, on an Apple, a Chromebook, tablet, anything like that. So it'll be very uniform across any device you want to use. And the way I got here was I went to portal.office.com. And then I just signed right into that home page here. The reason I like to use portal.office.com is strictly just because the portal leads you to your organization login. So once you reach that login, just type in your school email or the login you used for anything school related, and it will take you right to this portal. So now that we're here, we won't spend too much time in this portal, but as a quick kind of lay of the land, we have our apps on the left-hand side over here. If that's a little bit unfamiliar with all of you, then you can also potentially see apps in the middle instead of this recommended. If you don't see either of them, it might be your first time, then this waffle icon in the top left corner will be able to take you to all the right places. So with that being said, we're going to navigate over to Teams. It's the little purple icon, and we're going to click on that, which will automatically open up a new tab for us. And I'm doing pretty good. As you can see, I have a reading assignment here. But before we really dive into it, generally, you will land on this page over here, this Teams page. So it will showcase and outline all the different classes you might be a part of, and whether you're just a member of it, whether you're an owner, so you can dive into any of these. And on the left-hand panel, we have our activity or chat. We have an actual assignments tab, so we'll cover that a little bit later once we get to it. And then your calendar, calls, and files as well. And diving into our class right now, we're going to open up the Accessibility Studies class. So we've been working on kind of making this a little built-up community with all these different tools and resources. And right now, what I'm able to see is something a little bit different. So if you use Teams within the past year, this layout might be a little bit unique. So the class notebook, the assignments, these actually used to be at the top over here. They were actually in the place of tabs. However, they've now been migrated over to the side, separated by your channels, and then now you can include all your different channels at the bottom as well. So it's a bit of a different layout. That's okay. And with that being said, we are going to cover assignments. So if you've never used assignments before, that is okay because we're going to learn how to do that. And again, the reason why we're learning is just because reading progress is integrated in the assignment creation. Cool. So I'm going to take a pause, hopefully make sure that everybody is in the same area over here and that we all opened up the same tab. So just as a quick return, we went to portal.office.com, landed over here, clicked on Teams, and then we entered the team that we wanted to create. So now that we're in assignments, let's navigate down to the Create button. And we have the 3 tabs, so we can create something from an existing template that we've done before. So saving the work from maybe last year, or the year before, however long you might have been using Teams, this might be an easy kind of feature. And then we're going to skip over quiz right now, but you can always make your formative assessments through that. And also, we're going to click on assignment. Okay, and this is your assignment page. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to create an assignment, or we'll walk through how one would create it, and then we're going to dial it back and kind of restart, but making the reading progress specifically. So in this case, I made already a reading progress, which we'll get to. But if we're going to make another one, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Cami showed me a horse troubles assignment. So we're just going to label that. And here we can add instructions. So these are just general instructions that we can add for our students, right? So we can even go ahead and upload an existing document that we might have created. So if you just wrote out your instructions in a Word document, in a PowerPoint, you can upload that instead of writing it out. And then you can also attach things from a different, file sharing storage place, a different data container. So we have like OneDrive.
Damien, I just want to jump in because, the other night when we were doing our planning, we were noting that we couldn't upload from Teams itself. And I've learned that that's coming, as is uploading from a OneNote page as well. So that was pretty exciting. Oh, and this was really exciting for me. Within a couple weeks, they say there's also going to be a resource library attached to reading progress. So I know when Damien and I were planning, we were like, you got to find the right Word document, you got to find the right PDF. And I was really excited to know that they're looking at putting a whole library in, so that when you are a teacher and you want to test this and figure out how this works, that there'll be a library. But that's coming in a couple weeks. So
that is actually super cool. I didn't know about that. So that's a very exciting feature. And, speaking of reading progress, since we touched on it a little bit, if I click that attach button, I see reading progress here. I'm going to just skip over this for now. We're going to go over again, adding, making a general assignment, and then we'll return back and get into sink our teeth into the reading progress. So,
and just before you keep going there, Damien, Kimberly has mentioned that she doesn't seem to have a create teams option. And that's likely because, like my school district, I can't create teams. I can only join them. So Kimberly, are you like me where you can only see join, you can't create? If that's the case, it's a school district setting, and we are just plumb out of luck if you're signed in with your school account. And your options probably, Damien, would be to try on a personal login or just watch Damien's magic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and maybe you can try to message someone in IT or get into a team as an owner and then try that out as well. So there are a couple different avenues, but for the moment, yeah, let's do this together. And then if you have any questions, we can definitely go over some of the stuff. No problem. So navigating down, we can add points if we wanted to, but I'm going to add rubric. So I can choose a rubric that I've actually already created before. So I have a reading progress rubric. That is cool. I can add a rubric like this. And essentially what that means is I can make one manually on the spot. So I can add a title, a description, create all of my criteria, and then select that for points. Or if I had already created a rubric before and saved it as a .csv file, I can upload that in here as well. So being able to either drag and drop, or I can just click in here and try to choose one. I tried to save it. It didn't really work out too well. So we don't have to worry. We have it right over here. So I can just choose that rubric and then click next. You know what? This looks pretty good. If anything, no, yeah, this is good. So it's for points. I edited it. If worst case scenario, I wanted to change something, I can always go ahead and do that. I can always click into here and maybe edit some things out if I wanted to personalize it a bit more. But once I'm content, I can attach that. It's worth, should only actually be worth 20 points. Oh, if possible. Okay. So that's okay. So we're going to go ahead and actually change that to 20. That's not a problem. And then we can assign it to specific channels or teams. So I, as a user, am able to choose another class. So if I'm teaching multiple classes or different versions of that, I can go ahead and assign it to multiple. I can also choose to which group of students I want to assign this assignment to. So I can assign it to everybody. Maybe I want to select an individual or a few different students to do this on their own, or between groups of students as well, if this is a group project.
And Damien, I'd like to just jump in there from the teacher English language arts side or any subject. That is such a wonderful part of how this works, because when we think of our students, especially when we're looking at reading, we often have such a wide range of reading levels. And so what that means is we can take different groups of our kids. Even if you have reading groups within your own class, you could assign each different reading level or reading group a different passage. So that ability to differentiate or pick different students becomes really powerful, because often when we do reading instruction, we do group kids. And so that's a perfect time to use that differentiation within teams assignments.
Yeah, thanks for adding that, Cami. Absolutely. And I would even say too, I know personally of parents who ask, for specific work as well. And so if they wanted to assign that to their children as well, that could also be a potential option. But moving on, we have our due dates, and then lastly, we can even decide if we want to add this assignment to our student calendars. So if we're using Outlook, or if we're using a mailing system, probably Outlook if you're using Teams, then you can decide, what, I wanted to put it into everybody's calendar that is involved in this class. Maybe not other team owners. Maybe if I have like another teacher in here that doesn't need that in their calendar, I can just do students and myself. And so it will automatically plop this down and provide that as a nice kind of initial planning for your students. And once we would be all done that, we would click assign, and boom, there it is. That is our let's actually move this due date into the first. And that would be it. So let's now go back a little bit in time, and we are back at here in the title, so horse troubles. But now what I'm going to do, I'm going to get rid of that rubric for now, and I'm going to attach, right, because this is where we mentioned reading progress lives and breathes. So I'm going to actually go ahead and click on reading progress. And so now, yep.
Well, I was going to say, so this is the part, like the real magic. This is the new part. This is why you're at the session. And when I first was playing around with reading progress, I found that it was hiding in there. I'm like, I don't have reading progress, but it turned out I did. I just never thought to look under that attach button. So when you're using reading progress, or you're helping out your fellow teachers find reading progress, just make an extra note to yourself, look under the attach, because it doesn't seem super intuitive. So just make a note of where to actually go to find that, because you might open up your Teams and think, oh, it's not here, but it's kind of hidden. So it's worth making a special note of that.
And on that note, if by any chance you don't see it, because it has officially rolled out, the last 2 weeks they rolled it out to all tenants out there, then that might just be an update that hasn't been pushed by your IT yet. And so it's for sure out there, it's been rolled out. We just might need to ensure that this specific part gets rolled out as well if you don't see it at this point.
But right. For those of you that are just joining us, we mentioned at the beginning that Reading Progress, Microsoft Reading Progress is just weeks old, and so it's very new. So again, it might not be within your district yet. It's that new and exciting.
Yeah, and I think I see now your browse sample library right here. So this wasn't here when we were first making it.
Can you
so
that, Damien?
Sure. So this, I'm looking at this this is super cool. Okay, this would have made it so much easier to prepare. So
let's pick one of those instead, can we?
Yeah, why not? We'll do a little bit on the fly.
I might just.
So as we can see, we could do a K to 6 kind of level, or a secondary level, and so it really is a broad span of different texts. And so yeah, I see this library now. We can see it, all the words on the side, whether it's a fiction or nonfiction genre.
There's one other thing I see there that's exciting, Damien. The second last column is a Lexile level, and so what that means for teachers is that we often know a Lexile level of our students. Often our reading books or other material have a Lexile level, and that's kind of like a not necessarily a grade level, but a level of reading. And so the fact that it has that Lexile level is just one more great tool for helping us choose an appropriate reading for our students, especially when we're using those differentiated levels.
That's good to know. Yeah, I personally didn't know too much about that, so that's super awesome. And it seems like I can preview these texts as well. I'm going to choose a small one just for the sake of the demo, 90 words. But if I preview that, yeah, so I can see what that text is, what it looks like. So if I like that, I can select it. If I click back, maybe I wanted something a little bit more with 100 words. I can preview this, and yeah, you know what? This looks pretty good too. So I'm going to go ahead and select that. And what I'm actually just going to go back because I want to show what it would look like if you're uploading, right? So if you're uploading a Word or PDF, you just open up, your document library. You'd click any one of those, and then it jumps us to that same page that we were just on. So I'm going to browse that sample library because it saved my choice as well, which is super cool. Okay, and then now that we're here, there's also something that I wanted to point out is that if we're choosing from the sample library, we can't edit that text or that passage. So if it's a document that you're uploading, such as the Word or PDF, then because it's your own document and you own that, you have the ability to edit. So you can go in, you can add a text, take out something if you made an error or anything like that. But now that we have the reading level at the top, which we can always change. In this case, we took the passage, so it's stated already as nonfiction. But if we uploaded our own document, then essentially we had the choice of choosing between fiction or nonfiction. It's up to us. The number of attempts, that's ultimately up to you as the educator. So essentially, what happened there is. Sorry, I just got a notification that my system audio didn't work. So hopefully that changes. But essentially, the number of attempts allows us to, give a chance for some of our students, or maybe, just give especially if this is the first time you're using it, maybe they're a little bit anxious or unsure, or it might be tough talking to a screen to themselves. Giving that ability to correct and try it out is a really nice kind of, well-being. And then lastly, we can set the pronunciation sensitivity. So generally, it's on default. We can choose to be less sensitive or more sensitive. And what that means is when we're going to mark it, we can slide that scale so that the artificial intelligence helps us out as much as possible by being a little bit more harsh or not. But we'll talk about that a little bit more when we get there.
Okay, we're gonna get. I was gonna say, so one time we might want to use less sensitive is with our younger learners. If you have, if you're doing grade 1 or 2 and they're just learning to read, you might, we'd recommend sliding the dial to less sensitive. But if you're using this for your high school learners, your junior high, you would want to move the sensitivity up. Another thing too that I just wanted to mention, Damien, is at the very top of the right-hand side is also a reading level. Now this pulled over automatically the Lexile level, the 420L, that's a Lexile level. But if you are using your own sample item, so just a PDF or a Word document that you bring in, you get to choose whatever that could be. So if your school or district uses like a Fontes and Pinnell letter system where you're a J or a K or a Z, you could put that level in there. You can type anything you want. So that might be something that at your school or your grade level department, you decide how you're going to set those levels.
Awesome. Yeah. And the last thing that we can check off or on is whether we want video to be required. So that might change depending on what you're looking for in your rubric. For the sake of just the presentation, I'm just going to turn it off. It's important to note right here that if any of your students are using a mobile device, that right now only supports an audio recording. So we just want to be a little bit mindful that if we are requiring video, who can actually work to complete that. So just a little heads up over there.
So I think in a practical sense, if you're an iPad school, on the iOS device, phone or iPad, they don't have. You can still audio record, but you wouldn't see the student's video. Android as well. Although again, I do hear that that's supposed to be. They are working on that, and it will be coming at some point. It's just not available yet on mobile devices.
Yeah, absolutely. And we can learn more if we wanted to click right there. But so it's definitely on the way. Before we click next, I want to show the student view. right? So I want to go ahead and click that student view. And right now, it is going to mimic what if I were a student, what I'm seeing, using this passage. So I'm going to allow my microphone. Generally, you're going to have that happen all the time. So because I didn't require video, my video is automatically turned off. I can go ahead and turn that on if we wanted to. Oh, but in this case, I can't just because it's being used for the teams. So a little bit of of a hiccup there, but that's okay. So I'm going to turn off the video, and I can now, click start. It'll give me a countdown again because I'm a student, and now I can, talk about the passage. So lacrosse is a sport with two teams. Players hold long sticks. One thing I do want to point out though is that a portion of immersive reader is built into this. So and if you're not familiar with immersive reader, we have some great sessions on accessibility where we cover that. And the reason why I say only a portion is because we have one of our three menus. So we have the text preferences menu. And what that means is this two AA at the top there, not a battery, just two capital A's. We are able to drop down and use our slider scale to increase the text size. So some really great options here if we wanted to, increase visibility. We can increase the spacing as well. So perhaps we can notice what this paragraph looks like, which is it's quite, it's quite put together, quite small, but that spacing now adds extra additional space in between letters and in between sentences as well. We also have the ability of changing font. So we have three different fonts. We have Calibri, Sitka, and lastly Comic Sans. I like Comic Sans a lot, and it's especially really good for our younger grades just because it resembles handwriting a little bit more. So it's a little bit more familiar if we are going from handwriting to reading in order to pick that up. And then lastly, our students are also able to change the theme. So they can change the background a little bit, add a contrast. So if they wanted a dark mode, if they wanted any kind of different background that might help them, they have that ability and that option to do that theme
Damien,
as well.
I can't remember. So one of the reasons that we use those colored backgrounds is we often have students that read better on different colored papers. Maybe they have something called Erland syndrome, and so we can change that. I can't remember, you might know this. Can you put a specific hex code in to the color palette on Immersive Reader? No, it doesn't look like it, hey?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so. Maybe so that could be a feature, but
there is quite a variety. I know I often worked with kids who had they needed purple paper, but it was like this very, very specific purple paper, and this purple paper didn't work, but this one did, and so we had to be very careful about ordering the right one. So I just wondered how specific, but you can see there's lots of different shades of lots there. So again, along with the differentiation that we were talking about, that those immersive reader pieces are so important. You see, we can't do the translation, and it doesn't tell us what's a noun and a verb like some of the other immersive reader tools, but just the way that we can recreate that text, bigger, smaller, fewer words, those are all such great differentiation strategies.
Yeah, exactly. And it really is helpful for, students or adults, anybody really that might have that a learning disability or anything like that as well, that we are still trying to accommodate for them. And then in its place, instead of having, as Cami mentioned, like the translations and the other features, we just have a minimize and maximize. So if I didn't want it to take up the whole screen, then I can choose that up here as well. But once I'm done, I can click all done. And then as a student, again, I can now review my recording. So I can change the playback speed in that ellipsis right there. I can click play. And if I'm content with my reading, I can then just click use this recording. Now, again, it won't let me actually go through with that because I'm just mimicking a view right now. But if I as a student, maybe I don't like what I just recorded, or I want to try it again with video, I can just click try again because we have those number of attempts enabled. Cool. I'm not sure if I missed anything, but if not, I'm going to exit student view, and I think we can go ahead. We'll click next, and we will see this assignment get published. Well, not published yet, sorry. It's just we finished the actual reading progress portion, right? And so then we can add a rubric, which we already have created. Beautiful. And now it's good. So we have it all ready to go, and I'm going to go ahead and click assign. Actually, let's change the title. That's gonna.
Let's play lacrosse. Good. So we're just at our halfway mark, Damien, and so we're doing just perfect for time. We've got our assignment, and now we will look at what I was super curious to find out when I first started looking at reading progress is what does it look like? What's the magic? What does this look like? How is this going to be useful for me as a teacher? How is it going to save me time? And I'll tell you right now, I was really blown away with what we're going to see in a moment, the AI, the artificial intelligence that actually does a default marking for you. So let's get into that, Damien.
Yeah, and actually, before we navigate that, I'm going to play a brief YouTube video. It is included in the deck, and this will just, it'll be quick, a minute, but I do need to stop sharing and reshare again because I think my my desktop audio stopped being reciprocated. So I will open that up again, include system audio. Let's move Cami out. And this link that we're about to play from, I've included it in the deck as well. So if you'd like, you can watch it. But we're going to go ahead and...
Now we're showing the student side. And I'm going to go down here, and here's that assignment, geography. Open that up. And you're going to see a special little icon next to geography. I will click this. Now, the first time that this runs on the student side, they will have to click allow so they can allow permissions to the camera, the microphone, and the speakers. So when I click allow, that will turn on the camera and it'll test the audio and video. Now we have Zoe here, and she's going to start reading this passage. One other thing, we have immersive reader technology, so Zoe can change the way the page looks so it's more comfortable for her to read. So we're going to quickly show what that looks like, and then Zoe will start reading.
Let's go! The study of Earth's landforms is called physical geography. These are rivers. People need water to drink. They also need it for washing. Through history, people have settled near fresh water.
Now Zoe's done with the reading. She can click the little play button on her video to watch and listen to herself read.
The study of Earth's landforms is called physical geography.
She can also click the Start Over button if she wants to give it another try, but in this case, she's all done. She's going to click I'm finished, and it'll upload the video. Now the video is uploaded and attached to this reading progress assignment, and now just like a normal Teams assignment, I'll go in the upper right and click Turn In. Now we'll switch back to the educator view and show.
So I know we covered most of what was mentioned in there, but I still found it pretty valuable to see kind of that full walkthrough of a student be able to, engage, use the text, add the recording since we were missing the video portion from me, and then walk through all the way to turning it in.
Now, Damien, is that from that 15-minute video with Mike? Is that the one? Okay. Yeah. So I wasn't sure if there's a smaller clip. I'll put that big, long... or I'll put the link in for the full video in there.
Perfect. There is a smaller one that exists out there for 3 minutes, but it just kind of briefly overlaps it. It doesn't really dive in depth the way that we're doing it now. So that's awesome. Thank you. So now that us as a teacher, we're ready to review the work that some of the students may have turned in. I know I see 0 out of 5 turned in, but I promise you that my student Cami over here, completely unrelated to Cami in the call, has viewed it, and I can definitely go ahead and check the status of that piece. So if no one else has turned it in yet, that's okay. They still have time. It's due on the 24th. But I'm gonna go ahead, click the viewed, or if it was turned in officially, it would just say you can open that up in the same spot. And now this is where the beauty of reading progress really begins to manifest, right? So Cami did an overall pretty good job. We currently see a 96% accuracy rate, and we can see that really the only problems were in omission and insertion, right? Which basically are color coded in their different spots. But what I can do is I have well, actually, before I click play, I have my auto detect turned on. And so that is that pronunciation sensitivity that we mentioned a little bit before, where we can set it a little bit higher. So right now it's at a medium, or we can set it lower. I can turn this off completely if I wanted to, and then just kind of work through this on my own. Or I can turn it on to get an idea of what artificial intelligence picked up, and then still go through the first few times and manually correct. And we'll demonstrate that.
So Damien, I just want to pop in there and just make sure that as teachers in the call, we're all understanding what's happened here. What you see on the screen with auto detect, Damien didn't touch that. He didn't mark that. The artificial intelligence picked all of that up. It listened to the reading and it identified mispronunciations, omissions, insertions, repetitions. It marked it on its own. So Damien, even though, he's super keen, he did not do this marking. Essentially, the computer did. So for me, that is just like mind blowing. Now, as teachers, I didn't necessarily trust it so much, but as I've gone through these, they are so accurate that within a percentage or 2 or 3, even when I go back and self-mark or try to, check the marking, it's only going to ever change by a percentage or 2. So if you think about the amount of time that would save you, it's pretty incredible. But Damien is going to take us through how to do it manually.
Yeah, and on the topic of the AI, I'd like to point out that artificial intelligence is exactly that. It's artificial intelligence. And so the beauty of it is that it adapts over time and it only gets better. So if this is the first assignment you're doing with your classroom, there might be some misses here and there, but as it begins to pick up and just accurately learn, potential dialects or accents, right, or from any of your students, then it will begin doing an even better job throughout the course. So let's go ahead and we'll click play.
The osprey is not as large as the eagle, but he...
So I'm going to pause it just right there. Hopefully that we heard Cami, read out, but eagle was mispronounced as eagle. So I can click on this word and I will now mark it as a mispronunciation. So I'm now manually still inputting. So even though that this might have been missed or most of it was taken, I still have the power and control as an educator to overview and work through it. So I can now click play again.
He has a hawked bill and sharp.
So we had another mispronunciation. Let's go ahead and do that.
Claws like the eagle. The osprey.
Cool. So far, everything's okay, right? And let's say I'm reviewing a few things, and you know what? I want to actually start down over here, the as he flies away. I can click on the as, so I don't have to read or listen through the entire text. I can just click on the word that I want to jump to and go ahead and jump to that word.
As he flies away with it for his dinner, an eagle sees him. The eagle flies at him fiercely with his sharp bill and claws.
So that's pretty powerful.
I was going to say, Damien, when I saw that the first time, I had to actually do it a couple of times. Like, is this really doing this? Because that is, again, as a teacher, we're used to scrolling through the YouTube videos. Oh, missed it. Oh, that, trying to find that spot. And so the fact that we can click on the word and automatically see the audio, or if there was video, it would automatically go to the video. That is just such an incredible time saver. And what technological progress.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's kind of the beauty of it, right? So we're able to really pick and choose where we want to go. If I wanted to as well, I can even insert a text here. So on the left or right hand side, I can add in as well. So, we have quite the few options here. But what's even cooler and more amazing, in my opinion, is that right from this window, right, we made a rubric before, right? And it shows me that there's a rubric attached to this assignment. But perhaps when I am working on it, I might not have it printed out in front of me. That isn't an issue. I can click on this reading progress rubric, and it opens up the rubric in this panel right beside the text. So now I can walk through my entire rubric. So if we're on volume, you know what? I think it was pretty good. So I'll give 3 points there. Maybe I'll give some feedback, regarding the volume if I wanted to specifically. I can now move over to the next portion of the rubric, which is clarity. And you know what? That was pretty great. I really liked the way that Cami pronounced everything. So moving over to fluency, and we're just making our way through the rubric now, all while in the same pane. So we have the actual reading progress and assignment on our left-hand side to remind us exactly how accurately we want to mark this. So you know what? There were a few long pauses, so we're going to go ahead, float faster and slower. Expression, let's give it a fair over there. Try to practice a bit more.
And while Damien's talking about the rubric too, just to note, Damien added this. This rubric is independent of the reading progress. It was a reading rubric that we had. We added that. So you do not need to have a rubric in addition to what reading fluency does. It's just a feature that we wanted to show that if you want an extra rubric, you can put that in there. But please note that it doesn't have to be there. You don't need to have a rubric. You could have a different rubric. The rubric is separate from the reading progress.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a great point. We want to show the full potential here, but that doesn't mean that you can adopt it to your own way. Okay, and lastly, I put posture in here. If I were requiring video, that would make sense, but because everything was audio, I'll just give a free feed 4 points. And we got a 16 out of 20. So we're going to click done, right? I can say, great job. That's a pretty great mark right there. So now that we're all done, I can have 2 options. I can return back the assignment to Cami and be like, this is your final mark, or I can also return for revision. And so now, if a student is struggling a little bit more, or we want to help them and challenge them a little bit before actually submitting that mark, we're giving them that opportunity to be able to do that right from here, right? So being able to return for marks, returning for revision, or maybe just giving it one more night of homework and trying it again. So let's go ahead and we'll just return that. Now, while we're still here, it's returned. I can't do anything more to this assignment, which is okay. But there's one more thing I really wanted to show, or a couple more things. But I have an Insights tab built right into reading progress. Now, it is currently in demo mode, so it won't be accurate to Cami herself. But when I click on the Insights tab, it will populate, unless it changed it, and yeah, it still is demo mode. It will populate for the student individually that you're in right now. And so I can see, in this case, it's Alfred, but I can see over the course of all the reading assignments of reading progress is that we handed out, in the last 20 days for now. Maybe we can, click that drop-down menu and just look at the previous week, the month. Great if you're preparing for a parent-teacher interview, right, to get some of those assessments. So we can go ahead and see, is there an improvement over time? So we can observe that the average words per minute were increased, or the accuracy rate. And this is, again, all coming from that artificial intelligence. So as it's picking up over time, we mentioned and we talked about how it begins to recognize a bit more the student and how they speak and making sure it's marking correctly. It also populates that data here and provides us with an accurate reading of our student. How can we tailor our teaching and their learning to help them improve even more? So I see the different assignments that were assigned to them. We can give a thumbs up if it's good. We have a brief chart over here of the student versus the class. So the fact that they've improved and are matching the class level, that is excellent. We can even go down to the accuracy rate and just see kind of over time how that's going on a class versus an individual. And kind of my favorite part about this is the word cloud. So there are challenging words that our students will come across as they begin to learn to read. So, we didn't talk about conspicuous in this round, but if there was a word that really popped out or was challenging, we can now tailor again that learning and the student experience to learn that word, to be comfortable mentioning it and using it, whether it is through reading, through an actual conversation, and then they can walk out. So I can even hover over each of the word and see the count of how many times they've encountered it, and how that might have been a bit difficult for them.
And so like any word cloud, the more, as we know, the more that word is used, or in this case, the more that it is a trouble or an error, then it gets bigger and bolder. So just, it works like a word cloud.
Yeah, exactly. So, we're able to really populate that data over time, again, within a time range, maybe a different reading level. So if specifically that we were mentioning a high reading level, we can go ahead and do that. Or lastly, we can do genres as well. So if we wanted to, depending on what we were assigning to our students, if we only wanted to check, poetry, for example, then we can look at that specific poetry piece that they did as well. So in case of the poetry, it's changed now. There were 72 encounters over time in that one poetry. And so there you go. And so, now that we're done, we can go ahead and close this. And I see now that Cammy's isn't to return anymore, right? It is now returned. So I'm able to see, I can go back just to double check, see a total kind of marking, right? So what was the final accuracy rate? What was the correct words per minute? I can still change that pronunciation, that sensitivity, the slider scale. Because it was the first time that we're doing it, it's still adopting and learning a little bit more. So we're not seeing too much of a change. But I promise, as this feature, again, it's within 2 weeks old, as it begins to get more support and garnish, and simmer over time, there will be a lot more specialized, sensitivity added. And yep.
I was just going to point out real quick that I learned when I had my students do this was that I wasn't, the first reading that I gave them, because remember, there wasn't a reading bank. I had to find my own, and it was quite big. And I said, oh, just read the first 2 paragraphs. Well, what happened was it marked the first 2 paragraphs, and then it marked the other 3 paragraphs as wrong. So my kids each had like a 20% fluency rate because they had missed so much of the assignment. So just I learned the hard way that when you assign reading fluency, you want to pick something that fits the time frame that you have. If it's too long and if the kids can't do it all, then that affects the score. So that was just one of the things that I learned as I was first learning to do it. Don't pick one that's too long, because if they don't finish, then it counts as errors.
Yeah, and I think it counts as a omission, if I'm not mistaken,
yeah.
right?
So
yeah.
What I did in the end to get around that was I went in and I changed, like I manually changed those, but it was not a fun thing. So don't pick a really long reading if the kids aren't going to have time.
Yeah, and that's actually a really great tip. So I'm really happy that you mentioned that. But yeah, and that's really reading progress in a nutshell, right? So we did everything inside of one team, right? But if we wanted to just have an overall view of all the different assignments, we could go into the assignments tab on the left-hand side of Teams over here. And then this kind of gives us an overview of everything. So we might have been inside of the accessibility studies class, but if we wanted to create one just from the general, the general assignments tab, we can do that as well. There's no limitation for where you wanted to begin doing that. You'll always end up in the area that you want to as well. So I can choose that class again, and then right from here we can start all over with that. So Ken, I'm not sure if there's any questions or anything before I kind of head over to to the code. I wanted to see if there's anything maybe that was vital to go over again, or if there are any questions. So
Kellyanne's asking if it detects prosody. So Kellyanne, are you that's not a term that we use in my province. Do you mean like expressiveness, lyricalness? Like, is that prosody? You can even pop your mic on and talk to us.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's like when they're reading, are they reading like a robot, or is it sounding like language so that they are comprehending what they're reading?
So from my experience, no, so you can see, Damien, is it possible for you to just make that a little bit bigger? There we go. So you can see there's mispronunciation, omissions, insertions, repetition, and then if they self-correct, they can get that back, but it doesn't mark that. Like, when we have kids that are, let's say, doing a speech, we want to know, do they have expression, that part, right? So the other thing that doesn't show up here is there's also like a rate, like a reading percentage rate, like a time piece that doesn't show up. And so if they read like this, that would affect the words per minute part. So if you see the big score on the left, the words per minute. So if they are reading slow and robotically, their words per minute will be lower, but it won't, like, the lyrical expression, the prosody, it doesn't, at this point, it's not smart enough. It is pretty smart, but it's not smart enough to capture a score on that.
Okay.
Yeah,
so that's where that rubric might come in. Damien has the expression rubric there, so maybe if you want, what I might do then is add a prosody rubric, or the two parts that reading progress doesn't count. I might want to give a mark or just a rubric on that, not even necessarily attached to points, but a rating, and then I can give the feedback on that part as well.
Right. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, Damien, let's head over to the Microsoft Education Center.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me showcase all the fun that we're talking about. So actually, I have to go through now all of these. So this whole deck, it's all available to you, which is super great. Let me just go over. And so today's code, as we brought up earlier, is on the screen right there. Maybe we can put it in the chat once we get a chance. Yeah. But if you have no idea what I'm talking about and all of that, so the Educator Center, known as the MEC, is basically a great site where we are able to go and take our accomplishments, get recognized for the upskilling that you're currently doing, and doing this training on your own time, whether it's to complete your ALP checklist, anything like that. This is kind of where the magic happens. So we have this code and we want to redeem it at education.microsoft.com. So to demonstrate that, I'm going to go ahead and let me open up actually a different browser. And so when I go to education.microsoft.com, I am currently signed in. Let me just sign out to make it a little bit easier. But if you've never seen this before, or it's the first time you're seeing it, this is kind of where the magic happens. So it's a community for educators of a plethora of resources, courses, lesson plans, things like that you can use and activate. And then, similar to you attending this workshop and getting the badge for what we've just learned, you can compile a transcript and use that for your professional development. Use it for interviews or resume or anything like that. So to redeem the code that we are providing today, you'd need to create an account if you've never created one. My personal recommendation is to use a personal account, because if you end up, maybe moving to a different role or changing school boards or things like that, it would really suck to have all of your progress and accomplishments locked now behind an email that you can't access anymore. So I would personally recommend making a personal account so you can take your accomplishments with you. So I'm just going to sign in, and it's going to ask me what I want to sign in with, which is okay. And once I have that code, I will select my my icon in the top right corner. It's a very simple UI. I'm going to click Redeem Achievement Code, and this is where I can go ahead and paste that into. So I can type in that code that I had, I would click Redeem, and then it would redeem if I put something in there. So once we do that, I'm going to just showcase what it would look like to get a transcript as well. So I can go to my profile, and there's also another place where you can redeem a code, because there's always multiple ways to do something. And just as a reference, you can collect your badges. I've been on here for over 3 years just doing stuff. I can individually look at the badge in the certificate. I can share it directly to LinkedIn if I wanted to, which is a great feature. They did not have this when I started 3 years ago, and it would have been great to directly share that, because the formatting gets off with the badge design and things like that. So that is super cool. If you use LinkedIn or Twitter, I know is a very popular platform as well, especially in the education realm. But here is where you can view your transcript. So by clicking that, it assembles a transcript of how long you took to be in each course, the description of each course or badge as well, and then you can kind of print that off or just save the link in order to share that as well. So that's kind of, yep.
They assign each course a learning time. So for example, there is we'll put the link in here into the chat as well. It's in the slide deck. There's a link for the Reading Progress is a brand new course in the Microsoft Education Center. They've assigned that a 1 hour. So if your board is a board that requests that you do a certain amount of professional development training, and they gauge you by hours, or the different boards do it different way, but if you're collecting PD hours, the Microsoft Education Center assigns an hour there. So if you're looking for hours on your Microsoft or for your PD, that is a great way to go about and collect that.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. So with that covered, this is the course. Also, if you wanted to go ahead and kind of go through it again, maybe with at a different pace, but on the Mac, you can go ahead and click that if you had the copy of the deck. And then lastly, we've included some resources for you. So one of them, this top one, is an interactive guide. So if maybe we brought up earlier, Kemi mentioned, and we mentioned, maybe it's not in, right? Maybe IT hasn't pushed that update out to your school board or anything. You can go ahead and click on this interactive guide, and it will kind of walk you through on your own with a pre-created tenant what that would look like if you're to assign. So it would essentially do what we did today, but in a much more closed environment, and an environment that you are following along with. And then we do have some research, right? Because everybody likes to see the academic research behind some of the tools that we use. And then the how to use reading progress was the 15-minute clip that I shared the 2 minutes of, just to show the student side of it. So there is that available as well. But with that being said, thank you so much for joining us today. If you do have any feedback on what we can do better, how we can improve, does this timing work for you? Can we do some anything different? It takes 2 minutes to complete, and we'd greatly appreciate hearing from you what it is that you want to see. And also, if you need any help, if you haven't run into any problems or anything like that, then definitely go ahead and navigate over to the help@cobblestonecollective.ca email. We have a great team of educators who are here to support you in every step of the way. They'll be able to help you and get back to you in a fairly short amount of time. So I think, before I, stop talking, because I've been talking for a while, we are running this workshop again in a week or two. So if you know of anybody that you feel would be benefited or beneficial to view it, definitely encourage them to check it out. And we hope to see you soon.
September 22nd is the next time.
Thank you.
September 22nd, 3:30 Eastern.
Thank you. I knew it was sometime, but I didn't want to quote a bad date. So thanks for that.
Yeah, and it's Damien and I. We're back again to do this again. So pass this on to your friends. There's a ton of resources again in the chat. Those same resources are all in the slide deck. Bring your friends, come back, send them our way. This is a brand new product, and hopefully you're as excited about it as we are. The machine learning, the AI just blows my mind.
Absolutely. But with that, thank you. And if you have any questions, we'll stay on a little bit longer just to answer them. But otherwise, we hope you have a great day, evening, afternoon, whenever you're watching this.